Okay, my name's Bill Helms. I work at Dominion. I'm an adapter builder. And today I'm going to rebuild a valved brake adapter, number 351X7831. It's also a dual level valve adapter, but its dual level functions are being used in this particular situation. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild it, show you how to properly lubricate it, put it together, and rebuild it before it gets run out. So I'm going to start right now with, I'd taken an adapter apart and I've cleaned up all the parts in a cleaning tank with some cleaning solutions and stuff to get a lot of the old greases off. They had the wrong grease on this one. It was causing some of the adapter O-rings to swell up. Now, when I rebuild it, I'm only going to use this particular grease that we recommend for all our adapters. We can use them for all of our adapters. And it's the PST 407, and it's from G-Man. It's got a green tint to it and the consistency of applesauce. Doesn't smell too good either. Now, I'm going to start out with, I have a call-out print here. And on one side it calls out, it shows you all the detail numbers. And it shows you where they go on the particular adapter, so where you can put the O-rings and stuff. Some people work off of a red kit. Some people work off of a print like this. A few people out might just take an adapter apart and match seals up as they take them off and set them off onto the side next to each other. But I'm going to work off of a print today. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a sub-assembly. I'm going to look through here, because on the print here it shows me that this here is a 2130 O-ring going in right here, and right inside the sleeve. This here is one of our details. It's a cylinder. It's marked down right here in the print as detail 11,000,1240. This also has a detail number. It's a 11,598 sleeve. And the manifold has a detail number. They're all marked off right here as an 11,000,1238. So I'll look through. I've got most of my seals are marked. A lot of the times you get a bag of seals and you just got to match them up with the old ones. I'll show you that as we go along. But I'm going to go through here and pull out a 2130, which I've already got a bag marked, pre-marked with 3 of them here. And when I pull it out, I'm going to set a rag right down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this lubricant here. I'm going to put it on the O-rings. It's not really thick. I kind of keep it kind of thin.
Yeah, you're just sort of rotating them around.
And rotating them around. And I just get enough on my fingers to... Now you can use rubber gloves with this. I've been using it for a while. It hasn't really bothered me or anything. But if you prefer, you could get rubber gloves before you do it and put them on. Then I'm going to slowly start putting them in where they go. The 2130 goes up here inside of the sleeve, right off to the side there. And at the same time, I know that there's an O-ring going to move up and down on this sleeve on the side, so I'm going to put a thin coating of grease on the side up here on the O-ring area where the O-ring slides. So now I've already pre-lubed that part up. Now on the cylinder, I'll take the 130. I put it right here on the inside. Make sure that's lubed up. And I know that the piston, when assembled, is going to have a seal rubbing up against the inside right here, where my finger is, on that wall. So I'll lube that wall up a little bit and get it ready. There's a spring that's going to be riding right here on this wall. So I'll put a little bit of lubricant right there to help the spring move. Now I'll take the other 130 and I'll put it right here on the inside wall where it goes. Now it shows that right up here. On this print, the 130 E O-ring goes in this spot on the manifold right here. The other 130 goes right here on the inside of the cylinder. And the other 130 goes on the inside wall right here on the sleeve. So if the O-rings come in a bag like that, now I'll pull out, to complete the cylinder, I'll pull out an O-ring that's marked down here for the jaws. It's a 2032 EPR. Now again, I lube up all the O-rings before I put them on. Now I'll set that one right here on this cylinder. We're going to be ready for the jaws. Now the sleeve's complete. And I need one more piece for the cylinder, which is going to be a slide ring marked off here onto the side. Now, I got enough lubricant on my fingers for the slide. The slide ring doesn't really need a lot of lubricant. And I will put that on the side. Now your cylinder is complete and it's ready. Now for the manifold, I need one more O-ring, which is going to be a 141E, 2-141E. And it shows it right here off to the side with the arrow pointing right there, 2141E. That'll complete the manifold of the adapter. And I'll set that off to the side so that they're ready. Now I'm going to do the sub-assembly of the piston valves. Now for the sub-assembly of the piston valves, it's going to call out in here a 5052 EPR for the smaller valve spool, which is a valve spool 1, 11,038,000. Valve spool 2 is 11,039,000, the larger of them, and you get two of those. On the larger one, it's going to call out a different O-ring, a 5. I'll find those and sub-assemble. Okay. Get both of those. Now notice I have 4 of each. And 2 of I'll pull my valve cell assembly here to the side. Again, I'm going to take some lubricant and lightly lubricate the O-rings. Set them off here to the side. Now I can use a pick. I got this one here dulled up at the end and it's rounded out so that I can insert these. I'll take them and I'll put them inside. Push them around. Seated inside the groove, the O-ring groove of the valve spool.
So you sort of just bend it a little bit,
Yep.
pop it in there, and then now you're just using the tool to seat it in there so
That's it.
that's it, pretty simple. And then there's a groove in there where it's going to go, right? So you
The
know.
O-ring groove, yeah. It goes right in the O-ring groove of the valve spools. Push it down, seat it in. It's nice and smooth. It's got the lubricant on it. Now its counterpart is up here in the valve cell. Now I got it all lubricated up and I'll set it down inside. And what I'll do is I'll push this into the O-ring groove on this part. Move it around with my finger until I seat it inside the O-ring groove.
Yeah.
And I'll just continue until I get this one here completed.
So you want to make sure you have a dull tool so you don't tear it or rip it or anything.
Yes. You don't want to poke holes in the seals, otherwise they won't seal. And the smaller one. I use my fingernail sometimes to get it started. Push down in there, and there it is. Once I get it seated inside of there, right here off to the side, you can see the O-ring in the O-ring groove.
Mm-hmm.
Right in there. Okay, now that I got that part done, I'll set these off to the side, and I'll go to the valve spools. And I've got the valve spool. You can see the outline of the valve spool right here. This is the small one right here, the 11mm38 valve spool. You can see the line here is pointing to an O-ring, a 2015E. Over here are the 2 larger valve spools. And you can see the valve spool number, 11mm39. And then on this side, it shows the picture of the 2017 EPR O-ring that goes on it. So, now if you have the seal kit, it'll be marked in the seal kit. I have the bags marked, so I'll pull those out of the bag here. Should be a 2015 and a 2017. There's 2015. There. 2015 and 2017. Here's the 2015.
Yeah, it makes it handy when you're doing it just one step at a time, right?
Oh yes.
Just to make sure you don't miss anything, and that you should try to stay organized, right?
Well, you have to sub-assemble these. It's the only way it's going to go together. You'll see it as it goes along, but the O-rings, yeah, a little bit at a time. On this case right here, we're only going to use one of these 2015s. I'm going to keep the rest of them off to the side because the rest of them go on here too. But this one will go on the small one. And I'll set it over here. And the other two, I'll lubricate them up, get them set, and I got one more perk to put some O-rings on, and we'll assemble that piece. But you just seat these right in here, just like that.
It's a nice little groove for it.
Yeah. And this one right here, just put them in. Now they're all set. Okay. Then I'll pull these right here off the side. Okay. Now on this here is the valve seat. This seems to work pretty good. The valve seat you can see is outlined right here. And see the little point right here on the point. It's got an O-ring that sets on it right here. It's a 2103 for the small one. And then on this one here, the 2 is a 2105. This part is valve seat 2, 11,013,000. And the small one is a valve seat 1, 11,012,000. They're all called out right here on the side here in your details list. So what I'll do is I'll pull the O-rings for these. The 2103E. And 2105E. Normally the guys in the shops are building these to get them in a big bag and just dump them out. Now, set these off to the side, then 2105s. I'll do this one here. And then
Just can't forget to keep them lubed up first, right?
They gotta lube them up. And then I'll take this one and I'll push it on. I use my fingernails a little bit to pop these onto the cones on the valve seats. Now, once I get the cones on the valve seats, now we got all of these set up here. Everything's set up here that, now I'm going to get this part here together. The piston assembly. And then the piston here, it shows you the piston outlined right here. Okay, and there's the pocket right here. These pockets right here are showing facing down. And on the top of this pocket here is an O-ring. And this one here is calling for a 2013 EPR. And this one here is calling for hard to see with this little one. It's a 2013 and a 2015. I don't see it over here calling it. And I know it's a 2015, they get 5 of them for it. So you take your 2015 and you get your 2013. APRs.
There you go, putting some lube on it, of course.
Just making sure that one here is just a little bit of lube on this. And then again, if you run out of lubricant, this is a brake valve adapter, and only brake fluid is used running through this brake adapter. So if you run out of lubricant and you're in a bind, you use brake fluid only. No other lubricants to be used except for PST 407 from G-Man.
Okay, so
Because it'll
two of
cause
those.
swelling to the, it causes swelling to the O-rings. Once they swell, they start binding.
And I'm noticing that 2 of those are the same size and the one is smaller.
Yes, yes. The 2 are the 015s that I had setting off to the side here.
Right.
So you got a 2 015s and then a 2013. And you just set them in here flat. And they'll seat right there. Use that right there.
Yeah,
There it is. There it
they
is.
just sort of lay on top of that groove.
Yep, and then kind of push it down flat into the groove so that it's flat all the way around.
Okay.
Okay, so now that one's ready right there. Now, I see right here that I have an Allen, a socket head Allen screw that goes up through 1, 2, into the 3rd detail to hold this sub-assembly together. So, I have to pull the O-rings for these seals here, a 2014 and a 2015s, two 2015s. And this detail right here. Okay. So, what I'll do is I'll lubricate the top of this detail just a little, lightly, so that the O-rings that are going on this will seal and they'll still slide. And I'll get a little bit of lubricant for the inside of this wall where the pistons are going to slide.
So how often do you have to do maintenance on these?
It depends on the plants. Some plants they'll rebuild once a month. Some plants rebuild once every 3 months. Some plants build every other week. Or,
It just depends on how much use it gets, right?
It just depends on what you can get out of them. Some places, they've had an adapter they've used for a while and they haven't rebuilt it for a long while, like 3-4 months.
Wow.
It just keeps running and running. You know, and they'll change the main seals a lot. Some of the main seals can get chewed up on the reservoirs that they fit into, on the lines on the cars. Yeah, I had to make sure that was flat down in there. There. Now it's flat.
Perfect.
Okay. Now, I've got everything here, but I noticed looking at this part that there's an O-ring groove right here on the sealing side that I'm going to seal on. And it is calling out for a 2005 O-ring. Right over here off to the side, it's calling out for 92005 O-rings, so that's one spot for the 005. So I'll just set these right down here. And now lubricate this one and push it in here and have it ready. And that's setting right here on the top to seal. And now what I'll do is I'll take this piece here, and I see here it's marked vacuum purge on one side, it's marked fluid on the other, and I have these two large orifices facing me in this picture. So I'll have them face me in this while I'm sitting here and I'm assembling. Now I'll take some lubricant, I'll put it on the shafts of the pistons, and I'll insert them.
And of course they're snug, right? So.
Well, I'm going to move them in a second here. I just get them all in there and make sure that. Now, I have them inside. I will be able to push them, and you can see that they slide.
Yeah, once they catch that lubricant.
Yep. They're sliding pretty freely. No binding. I can move them back and forth with my fingers easily. So I know that they should work, and I can feel a little bit of friction on them, so they should be sealing. So now I got the two larger ones facing me. That's where you come out with the springs. Now on this side right here, oh, it's just calling the number. Wow. On the other prints, it tells me the larger well, the larger spring goes on the vacuum side. I know that. But usually it calls it out on here. The 7165 is the larger spring. It's larger than the 71673. So the larger spring is on the vacuum side. The smaller spring is on the fluid side. Here's the vacuum side larger spring. I put on the vacuum side. The scabbage spring won't fit on the other two, so it can only go in one spot.
And you don't need to lubricate those springs, do you?
I already lubricated the shafts.
Right, so the springs are okay.
Yep, the springs will be fine. I mean, you can, if you want to, you can put a little bit on there. Might help with the movement. Once I get those on, I then put the valve glands on. Now the valve glands, you'll notice, have some holes on the side. It helps if you take a paper clip for this part. You open the paper clip like this. This is just a little trick of getting these together easier. And you take the hole And you can see these two flats right here. There's a flat and there's a flat. And it makes like an arrow. And you point that arrow into the center between the two slots next to it, and it'll line these holes up with that hole. So you can push the spring down, and you can put
Paper clip in there.
the clip in it to hold it down.
Oh, nice.
And you can do that all the way around.
And that's why you need 3 paper clips.
Yep. And do that right there. Now, while you got the paper clips in, when you're putting those in and pushing them down, you'll notice there are O-ring grooves right here on the top. You have 4 of them on this particular adapter. They take the 2-005 EPR O-rings, lubricate them up,
Just
stick them in there. And make sure that they're down flat. Doesn't take a lot, so that they don't fall out. And you're ready to take this piece. You can take a little bit of lubricant right here over the orifices that match these holes. And the small hole will match the small hole, and you just put it in like blocks.
just make sure that when you do that, those little rings don't fall out.
Well, they've got the grease on them.
So they won't fall out.
So, yeah, and you just set it there, get it ready. I'm going to get my screws ready here. Okay. And you can see on the print it's calling out for an M3 by 45 long with a high collar lock washer, which these are the 45s. And I'll just match up the lock washers, get them ready. Okay, now get my Allen wrench here. Okay. Now I'm going to take these valve seats and I'm going to turn them up. And what I do is I put them down right there on the hole and I slide them over. And they just seat right down. As you can see, the O-ring right here is going to seat right here inside that valve spool. And that's what opens and closes for your fluid and your vacuum. So it's important that they're lubricated pretty good. Now I'll put them down inside of here. And I'll put a little bit of grease right here. Then I'll take and I'll put a little bit of crease on the sides of these 45s on the valve seats. Because I'm going to put corresponding O-rings to seal on the valve seats. So they're right here. It is showing a 2014 EPR right there at the end of that little valve seat right here. And it's showing a 2015 right under this valve seat, which I need 2 more of those, which I have my 2 left over here. Make sure they're lubricated. Put them on. You want them lubricated. And make sure this side's lubricated, that side's lubricated. Now I get my 2014 out. And right here.
Because there's only one of those.
Yep, that's the one. And you'll notice it is just a little bit smaller than the 2015. Kind of sticking because of the lubricant. Now lubricate them up. Very good. Just put on here. And then what I'll do is I'll take my screws, I'll stick them in the screw slots with the lock washers on. And I'm going to turn this with the 2 large orifices facing me again. Okay? Now, there's 2 ways to tell how you got this on right. You have an O-ring right here next to this screw. There's an orifice right here that matches that O-ring, and it's next to the screw hole. So you can line it up with that one. And you can make sure these 2 orifices match over the top of the 2 large. Then you take and you put them in the holes. Once you get it down, you squeeze down to seat the O-rings. And you tighten your screws. Once you get it loosely tightened,
You can pull out your paper clips.
Paper clips. Then you want to do a couple turns, like if you were putting on a spare tire, changing a flat.
Just go around and equally tighten it.
So it'll equally flatten the O-rings and spread them down so that they seat properly and they don't get pinched, causing leaks or vacuum leaks or even fluid leaks. Now once I get them hand tight, I will then take and do like a quarter turn. And just to be sure, and just give it a little nudge, not too tight to break the screw, but enough for it to feel sealed. Because everything's got to press down now on the seals throughout this whole assembly. I'm squashing down all my seals right here on the gland inside the piston. My seals right here inside, or going around the valve spools, and I'm pressing my valve spool down on the seals on this valve seat, and I'm pressing the seal onto the valve seat and flattening it right in here to help seal there. Now when this moves up and down and opens and closes, it's a spring close and it's an air open. And that's what allows your fluid to come through here and fill. And once I get that assembly done, I look for the O-ring that goes right here on the outside of this piece. It's called out as a 2013. And I still have a couple more in the bag here. So now I can set my 2013s off to the side. And I'll lubricate them up. And I'll take the one and I'm going to stick it on this piece here for its seal. Now I know there's going to be seals going over these orifices, so I'll put a little bit of lubricant right there. Notice I'm not gunking it on real thick, but I'm putting enough to where it's going to get a pretty decent seal, and it's going to have enough for if the O-ring slides. Now I'll grab the guide. The guide is shown in the picture right here. Is this piece right here on the end. That's going to hold your main seal. Okay, and the guide's listed right here as an 11,000,01301. And that's pretty much what changes this adapter mostly to what reservoir it's going to fit on what car. Okay, now this one is calling out for a 2011, two of them on the two main orifices, and then it's calling out a main seal right here of a 2218. So I'll pull those out, put them on before I assemble. Here's my 2218. And here's the 2011Es. Okay. Put the 2011Es in right here. And now I'll just lubricate these a little bit on the top. Then I'll lubricate this pocket right here that's going to go over the top of this O-ring. Now it's held on with a screw, socketed cap screw M3x15 with the high collar lock washers. You got my M3x15s and my M3 high collar lock washers. And I will complete the piston assembly. Now I got the two main orifices facing me, and these two here.
So just make sure they match up.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way they designed it is your screws are in a V, and there's the V. And it's only one way that it'll go on with the screws matching. Just like that. And screw those down. Now after I cleaned off all the parts, I kind of went over them real quick with a file and kind of deburred them a little bit so there weren't any sharp burrs hanging up or anything that might get in the way or cut or smash an O-ring or keep everything from being flat. And I'll go around this just like if I was changing a flat on a car, and tighten up the lug nuts. One at a time, all the way around. Noticed there's one right there.
So why'd you loosen that one, take it back off?
It had a lock washer stuck to it right here on the inside.
Oh.
So when I put it on, it had two.
Oh,
And
well.
I noticed it while I was screwing it on. I mean, hey, there's a lesson. Just
Right there.
stay aware, and you know, it looked like the screw was a little bit higher than the others, and I'm like, what? Ah,
Well,
there it
good.
is. That's why.
Yep.
Okay, and so these here are all.
And that may or may not have, had an effect on the function of it, but you never know, right?
It might have had an effect, because if it's sticking up right here by this O-ring, it's your main seal right there. It's going to hit it. As you can see, it's going to hit if it's sticking up a little bit higher right there on that flat.
Right.
So I noticed it was sticking up a little bit higher, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to take it off and see what's going on here. It had a washer stuck on the inside. Now I put your main seal, and that's your assembly. Now if I was sitting at a bench, I could take an airline and I could use a little switch, opening and closing my airline, and I could shuttle all the valves in here, and I'd be able to hear them shuttle. Or I'd be able to put my hand over here and feel them, because the spring would push back and the spring pocket air would flow back out here on the sides, and I would feel them moving. You know, that would be like a simple bench test you could do to make sure everything's moving in here.
Okay.
I have no air here, so. Okay, now that I've got that there, what I'll do now is I'll get the O-rings for here and for here. That completes that sub-assembly for the piston sub-assembly. Now right here is this piston right here, and you can see that it has an O-ring right here. It's calling out for a 2-131. The next one up from the 2-130s that we put in earlier. So I'll pull that 2-131 out. And that one's going to go on the outside. And I'll leave that up. Once I get that, it'll go on right here where I push it out with my fingers, and I can just push it on.
Nice groove there for that too.
Yep. Now, I'll take and I'll put some lubricant right up on this top piece, because this top piece is what's going to be sliding through this O-ring right here and this O-ring right here. Now, the O-ring I just put on is what is going to be sliding on the inside of here. This O-ring right here will be sliding right on here. So I make sure again that that's lubed up in there. Once I do that, I can take this piece, come over the top, and slide on.
Okay.
Now I can make sure with my hands that I'm sliding pretty good, because this is going to be your clamp and unclamp and part of your lock system on the adapter. And it moved pretty good. So now that piece is assembled. Now I'm going to take the remaining O-rings. Looks like I got a couple in here that are called out on this print that don't belong in here. But they were part of the seal kits a long time ago, and you're just going to have to set them off to the side and not use them. Calls out up here for a 2010, a 2007, a 2013, and your 2005s for the top right here. So I'll put those in. Here's my 2010. Here's the 2005s. Here's the last of the 2013s. .007 EPR.
And that one goes in the middle.
Yep. Right, dead center. Now make sure those are. Now that I got those in, you'll see the reason that I come over the top right here on the bottom, and I put some lubricant on the flat where the O-rings are going to seal. It'll help them seal. When it flattens it out, it'll help it like spread out. Okay, so now that I got that, I'm going to now these are leftover seals that will probably come in a seal kit because they're called out on here. One of the seals is actually a seal that's inside of a fitting up here that doesn't get changed. All right, it's up here on the top. It gets pressed in. And that seal usually stays in there and it doesn't wear out. It's used for the hoses. It gets a nylon tubing that gets pushed in and out and in and out of there. So that one you can't change. All right. This other O-ring, we'll use that. And the 109 is an O-ring that they used to have for an old fitting that used to go on here that doesn't go in there anymore. So that'll be off to the side. If you get a seal kit like this. But if you get a regular seal kit that comes in a container, it won't come in it. The newer kits don't have it. So you don't have to worry about, oh no, did I miss an O-ring? You get a couple left, you didn't. Alright, so this is off to the side now. That's off to the side. This one here is the last one, the 309, which is a 903 here. And it's going to go on your bleed fitting. It goes around it just like a regular 97 degree or 70 degree fitting. That's right here. And I'll lubricate that up a little bit. And I'll put that on here. Because it usually goes right here on the top. And this will usually go right here on the top where it's got an O-ring fitting orifice. But I don't put that in until last because I'm going to need this flat to push down on. Now, I'm going to make sure I got this lubed around here. And I'm going to make sure I got this lubed once more right in here. And I'm going to push this on here. And I'll pull it off, and you see how it comes off and slides easy. That's part of your lock and clamp system, so it's got to move freely. Then I'm going to keep the two large orifices facing me. Put a little bit around your spring. You don't have to put a lot. It's just going to slide right here on top of the outside of that cylinder. Then I'm going to take my jaws, I'm going to put them right here and see how I got them hooked on the O-ring and put them in the groove there. And you can see how they stay hooked up inside. I'm going to go all the way around.
And they basically just go right next to each other, right?
That's it. Get that hook, I just hook it right up on the O-ring and I turn it. It's on this particular adapter, it's getting 12 jaws, so I'll fill all 12 spaces. And now I'm ready to finish assembly. Now, I'm going to come on here to the edge of the table where it's stronger. It's got the leg right there because I have to push down on this. All right, I get my now this one here is calling out up here for an M4 by 25 socketed cap screw with the lock washers. And I put the lock washers on. And how I do it is I put one inside this first hole here. And I get my Allen wrench. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this screw up with this hole right here. And I will face it all towards me. I will push down.
And then you're actually holding it down, compressing the spring, right?
Yeah. Oh, I was off.
So could this sometimes just be like a two-man operation where you want somebody to hold it down? Or can you just always handle it by yourself?
I've always done it by myself.
There you go.
There it is. Then you put the other 2 screws in. And again, I'm like I'm putting on changing a flat tire. I'm going to go around them so that everything seats. And on these, I want to make sure that they're tight. So I'll use a little crescent and I'll give it a little bit more of a tug turn on the M4s because they're a little bit bigger. And I'll make sure that everything is seated on the adapter. And that's pretty much the assembly, except for this completes it.
That just screws right on the top.
Yep. And what I'm going to do is when I screw it in, I want to make sure that I don't see the O-ring kind of protruding out the side as I tighten it up. But then it slips on in there.
So it should mount
And
nice
that's
and
it.
light, nice and flush on the top, right?
Yeah. Now, take this off just a little bit. In my hands, I should be able to pull the sleeve down over the jaws. My hand.
Let me,
See the. And it's moving freely. It's not sticking. When I originally got the adapters in for repair, I couldn't do this. Now that should run pretty good. And now I'm ready to run it out. And that's how you assemble it.
all right. Thanks, Bill.